Alright, welcome. This video we're going to introduce everybody to market structures, specifically perfect competition. Alright, so we will learn the four types of market structures, and really we're going to focus on perfect competition. Alright, so we have four types of market structures: perfect competition, monopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition. Alright, so basically there are two questions that we ask to determine which of those four market structures a market belongs to. One is how many firms are in that market. All right, if there's only one firm, that's monopoly. If there's a few firms, it's an oligopoly. If there are many firms, that can be either perfect competition or perfect competition. The second question is, are the goods the same? Are they identical, or are they differentiated? And so that's going to help us to determine whether we're dealing with monopolistic competition or perfect competition. So that'll be their difference. All right. So perfect competition, we're going to answer those two things in just a moment. But the first thing we're going to get to with perfect competition is that it is made up of price-taking firms and price-taking consumers. All right, what this means to be a price taker for either the firm or the consumer is that you and your actions have no effect on market price. So that means that there are so many other consumers, so many other buyers of the product, that regardless of how many you buy, you are not going to affect the demand curve. So you don't have that power. You have no market power. Same thing with the seller. There are so many people selling that, or so many firms selling that product, that each firm can produce as much as they want, and it will not affect the supply curve for that market. Because again, the market is so large, so many people producing, so many people consuming, that no one consumer or no one firm affects the price of that good. And so this is exactly that. A perfectly competitive market is a market in which all participants, consumers and producers, are price takers. So what that means is that everybody takes the price as a given, knowing that they do not have the power in and of themselves to increase or decrease that price, because they are essentially statistically insignificant. All right, there are two conditions that are necessary in order to have a perfectly competitive market. Number one, the industry must contain many firms. Remember, that was our first question. How many firms are in the industry? So perfect competition has many firms, none of which have a large market share. So nobody owns a predominant amount of that market. So you think of things like corn, wheat, milk. These are examples of products that could be something like perfect competition. The second thing is that consumers regard the products the firm produces as equivalent. So they don't think that they are different. Consumers view them as being interchangeable. So I don't know, there's no brand names on corn or on wheat. They're the same to me. They're the same to everybody. So we have products that are not differentiated. We'd say that they are identical. So we have here perfect competition, identical product, many firms, all the way over to the left. We'll get to those others in future videos. The term market share is the fraction of the total industry output accounted for by that firm's output. In perfect competition, we would have, instead of having 5 companies here that make up the market share, they're all going to be a lot more, and they'll all have a much smaller piece of that pie. So market share will be very small for every single firm in that industry if we're in perfect competition. Additionally, we have a standardized product, so that means that consumers regard the products from different firms as being the same good. So they don't care who produced that corn or that wheat or that milk. Sometimes we call this a commodity because, again, so we don't have brand names for this. We view them all as the same. Corn is corn, wheat is wheat. In that case, it can be a standardized product. And then a characteristic that is not technically needed to be considered perfectly competitive, but it usually is, pretty much always, is free entry and free exit, meaning that companies have the ability, firms have the ability to leave or to enter the market. So if we'll talk about why they would enter or exit, but it's the idea that there aren't these artificial barriers preventing them from entering the market if they want to, nor are they prevented from leaving if they decide that they need to leave. This has been a La Money production.